Hello, welcome back, guys. Here's another edition of your boy editing your college application essays. This is the fourth one of the year, and we'll keep running these until eternity, until you guys get in. So the first thing that I wanted to do actually is send over the link if you guys are interested in having your application reviewed for free on the channel. Again, I wish I could review every single one in depth. I've already gotten 50 requests, but I'll do my best to review the profiles which I think would benefit the broader audience. So today I have teased out one domestic student and one international student, and we'll review both of their profiles together. But before we do that, I have some other presents for you all. By the way, I see 4 viewers here. Welcome, guys. And if you guys could just let me know where you're tuning in from, what grade you're in, and that will also help me figure out how to structure the live and give what kind of feedback and advice to give as well. Hello, welcome. Thava Nation, as well as Not Untypical. Great to see you guys here today. All right, one of the first things that I want to show you guys is this super crazy new rubric that we have developed. Like, imagine if there was the perfect college admissions rubric. Well, guess what? You no longer have to imagine, because finally, after several hours of work, I have, oh, hey, Jinho, we have Thava Nations from India. Okay, and then a junior from Ethiopia. Good to know. But going back to the elevated admissions rubric, finally, after many long nights, we have created this rubric over here, which I will now share in 3, 2, 1. Voila. Let me send this to you guys in the chat. You should be able to access it for free. Let me know if you guys have any trouble, but I am not gatekeeping here. I'll send it to you guys in the chat. We don't really need to focus on like rating number 3, but we'll focus on 1 and 2. All right. So I'm not joking when I say that if you are a 1 across the board, like your odds of admission are over 80%. We didn't make up these numbers out of thin air. This rubric was created by analyzing this old one. If you guys have been on previous streams, you'll know that I pull up this rubric all the time, except you'll see that our version is just more detailed. It's also more up to date. This one was made in 2020. I'll send it to you guys as well in the chat. It was made by an analyst called Zhen, and ours is a little bit more detailed. We've added more criteria as well as this additional bonus factor, and truly, like, your odds of admission, can go up. Oh my gosh, it's a tough day. Your odds of admission can go up by like 1 to 5% for each of these factors. So if you really play your cards right, you can get an additional like 15, 20% just by using this kind of row more strategically. The other thing I want to mention is that the admission rates are kind of like, I know this sounds brutally harsh, but they're halved if you are an international student. So if you're like top 5% of your international school, or top 5% of, let's say, Egypt, China, Ethiopia, your odds still, they're not over 80%. I would say they're probably over 40 or 50%. Now, keeping in mind that many of these countries are roughly the size of an American state, right? Like Ethiopia, or we had another student, India. India is huge, obviously, but Ethiopia is smaller than most American states. India, I will tell you for a fact, like Harvard, Yale, they take fewer than 10 kids from India and China a year. These are countries with like 1 billion people, right? Which is really crazy. From my high school, Harvard took 10 kids a year from my high school. Now that is equal to the number of kids they take from India and China. That is, it's tough, but I'm just trying to give you guys a really good sense of how the game is played. All right, in order to really improve your odds, the things that you guys can work on now, I guess if you're a junior, the number one thing to focus on now is building your extracurricular profile. Like, truly winning 2 to 3 more national or international awards in the next 6 months will move the needle pretty much more than anything. There are still some really selective summer programs which have deadlines in about 2 to 3 weeks. I would definitely apply to those as well. Another crazy bonus factor is if, like, let's say I had a student just use this strategy this past summer. She applied early to Brown, but before that, she did a Brown pre-college summer program. So she went there on campus, studied, and then she got a recommendation letter from her teacher. Her teacher wasn't actually like the most famous professor at Brown. It was actually a graduate student who is like a 20-something-year-old. She got this graduate student to write her a glowing recommendation And it really pushed the needle. You know, they asked why Brown. She had a great compelling reason. I've been to the campus. I know people there. And even though she didn't have crazy test scores, awards, she wasn't like world class at that many different disciplines. She was really good at karate. But that was really her main thing. And she took a bunch of risks in her essays, like definitely took a lot of creative risks, and they panned out. And that's how she got into Brown early. So if you guys have any questions about this rubric, yeah, feel free to ping me. It's still a work in progress. I'm trying to clarify it. Another thing I wanted to show you is this detail over here. So Jeff added this, my co-founder, Jeff. You don't see him a lot on the channel, but he is my better half. 2-3 years younger than me. Jeff double majored in East Asian Studies and Computer Science. I only majored in Computer Science, only majored in East Asian Studies, excuse me. Crazy fun fact, but Jeff wrote his computer science thesis about how AI cannot write college essays. But that was like 5-6 years ago. I think that nowadays AI can write a college essay that is probably like a top 10 or 20% essay if you tell it how to write the essay in the right way. At any rate, don't worry about that. But what I wanted to show you was Jeff's admission file, which is really, really crazy. Again, this is a little bit old, I guess. Wow, it's been 10 years. But a lot of the feedback is still super helpful. It makes sense. So I will share this with you. You can take a look at it. And then you can even see Jeff's profile as well. I'm not going to go over it in crazy depth today, but yeah, you guys can feel free to reference these materials. Take a look if you're curious. Okay, so we have GOAT Ethio with the Harvard logo. I have 1580 as an international from Africa. Am I a 1 in my academics? So yeah, 99th percentile, that definitely helps. But like, if you're a 99th percentile here, but your grades are only top 15%, or let's say top 20%, it averages to like a 2, right? And then the question is, do you have national or international honors or awards? It's not so simple in terms of a binary, like, oh, here I took this one test, I did really well. Yeah, you also need Olympiads. Thank you, Neon Goalie. You read my mind. Especially for international students, the bar is even higher. Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. There you go. A lot of people, yeah, I also feel like these days, many Asian students or international students, they don't have a great, like they don't have athletics. And I'm not going to say you need it, but it really does help so much, even if you have some, especially if you're like a really quirky athlete. Like I said over here, an Asian American in football or hockey, or you're like an Indian dude who is crazy good at some really niche sport. For some reason, even like, it doesn't have to be crazy athletic. It could be like, I am very good at juggling yo-yos, something quirky like that. But that quirky aspect really helps. That's what adds to this truly unusual category. Like a truly unusual athletic. It sounds really funny, but I had an Asian student, and I was like, we need to add some more spice to your profile. He ended up picking up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Asian dude, and he crushed it. He basically got into almost all the IVs. I was looking at his profile, and everything was medicine related. And I was like, it's junior year. What can we do to make it stand out? Like, do less music, please. And instead of practicing music 5 hours a week, invest those 5 hours into some niche, quirky extracurricular. And in this case, he picked something athletic because he didn't have something that athletic in his profile. And this is something that he did junior spring, and it really helped improve his odds by, I think, 5 to 10% across the board. Did he have any belts? I don't even think he had any belts. I think he was just, he says, maybe I'll get my blue belt next year. That's what he said. All right, cool. Now let's take a look at some of the students who sent in their profiles for review. Where should we begin? Let's begin with this dude over here, AS. All right. Using our rubric, let's see where he stands. Again, here's our rubric. And we're just trying to figure out, is he a 1, 2, or 3? I mean, for the most part, I don't really show profiles here who are at a 3. So the question is he closer to a 1 or a 2? And like, this is the same exact rating that admission officers use. Like, they'll say, okay, rating 1 in these 3 categories, a rating 2 in these 2 categories. And that's how they create something that's more objective and fair. It's not just like, you know, admitting you based on vibes. Okay, so we have some international users, self-taught Java. We founded an app. These days, like, founding an app used to be more impressive, but like, well, admission officers aren't dumb. They know that you can basically vibe code something in 5 hours using Lovable, and that's why also like the number of founders and developers, it's gotten way higher. It's not as impressive as creating something that might be in person, but still better than not having it. So clearly a focus on dermatology. Published paper, nice. Peer reviewed, looking good. Very, very clear focus on dermatology. Okay, so the first 4 are all related to dermatology. And I think that the authorship of the paper pushes it closer to like a 1. Published op-ed author with, so this is saying that like Kevin MD has 3 million monthly views. Oh, sorry, there was some crazy thunder in the background. I'm in Brazil, guys, and it's just raining a lot. And then we have competitor member here, more paper, more research. Again, like the research starts to get a little bit redundant if you have been doing, like if everything is revolved around research. Or you could make this more interesting by having research in different subjects. Okay, interesting. And then we have weightlifting and competitive Rubik's Cube solver, caregiver. So how would you guys categorize the students' extracurriculars? Do you think they're closer to a 1 or do you think they're closer to a 2? Yeah, I'm curious to know what you guys think. Yeah, the thunder is crazy. It's summer here in Brazil, rainy season, and people get like swept up in flash floods. It's pretty scary. I'm just trying to stay indoors and help you guys. If I'm a boy who does beam, is that quirky enough for Brown? Yeah, it is. Long story short, thunder was crazy. All right, so we have E family says closer to a 2. And Harsida says closer to a 1. I don't think I see like irrefutable impressive results head of many of these. It's definitely a mix. Like the dermatology is unusual, and then we have kind of like probably one of the top dermatology students in the country, which is very nice. But we're kind of missing leadership in school, which is a little bit weird. It feels like the student wasn't that involved in school, which they might also lose a few points for. Granted. And then the other thing too is like I'm seeing a lot of stuff that was done in just 11th and 12th grade. Feels a little bit last minute. So that's another kind of weakness with the profile. At this point, it is what it is though. And it's more about like how they frame their story. Now, since everything in their extracurriculars is shouting dermatology, I would not make their main story about dermatology. I think they can make it related to, it would actually be better to write about like taking care of the family. And then in their why our school, why this major essay, they can write about dermatology. All right, guys, let's take a look at the essay. And when it comes to the essays, we also have a rubric over here. So like I say, in previous streams, every student that has gotten between an 8 and 9 on our scale has gotten into a top 10 school. If you are an 8 or 9 on the rubric, let me zoom in so it's a little bit easier to see, then that corresponds to a 1 on the personal rating. So that's kind of what like the previous rubric didn't really explain, like what is an outstanding essay, what is a very strong essay. They didn't go into that much detail. That's really what we're known for and good at, especially helping like international students and Asian students, East Asian, South Asian, Asian American students articulate their stories. All right, so this is student 1. Let's take a look at their personal statement. I'm not going to read it out loud, but you guys can take a look at it and let me know what you think of this story itself. Again, if you learn anything from this live stream today, the number one thing when it comes to college essays is that the overwhelming majority should be related to your solution. Solution means you helping people or you growing. It's that simple. So I'm trying to figure out what percentage of the story is problem and what percentage is solution. Let's dig in. All this is pretty much problem. The dermatologist looked up, no explanation. Random itchy bumps, nothing matched. Okay, so we don't get to the solution until I scoured articles. And again, it's related to dermatology. This is the type of story, guys, if you're struggling with like a medical issue or a really personal issue like so, it might be better to write about this in the additional information section of your Common App, not necessarily make it your number 1 core Common App essay story. Okay, so then they're doing some research. I turned to TikTok research, and lots of Google tabs. People who looked like me weren't represented. Okay, so right now it's a very, very predictable story. It's kind of what we call the double problem solution. They are looking up their medical condition, they do some initial research, they run into some problems, they do some more rigorous research. It is a really, really common framework for medical stories. And I'm not entirely convinced that this is enough to demand admission to like a top school. Again, it feels very, very predictable as well. So, yeah, I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? How would you rate this essay using the rubrics that I sent over? We have 1 would be outstanding, 2 would be very strong, 3 would be like it's a fine essay. So that's, do you guys think it's a 1, 2, or 3? Personally, I think it's closer to a 3. I don't think the execution was that marvelous, and I think it was kind of what I would expect. What's your opinion on the structure of how the problem is presented? It feels a bit choppy. Yeah. So again, we have a situation where the extracurriculars are crazy strong. And I feel like this is the 4th week in a row where I've been doing this. Like I pull up a profile that on paper looks magnificent. And then the personal is like, it's a 6, right? It's an average essay, or maybe like slightly above average, top 30% essay, I would say. And that's killing you guys, quite frankly. Like going from 3 to a 1. The easiest way to make this a 1, honestly, is to change the topic. I would use this essay. Oh my gosh, the rain is insane. I would use this essay for the why our school, why this major. And I would also make sure that the overwhelming majority is focused on the second half, where they do like more hardcore research. They make it more service oriented and less medicine oriented. That would be a little bit better. Here's the other thing, right? Like this student has a bunch of research, and chances are their recommender will write about their research as well. One of their recommenders is probably their research mentor. And so you don't really need to tell this story twice. I would rather hear a Common App that, is about a really unexpected topic, is about something that can't be found anywhere else in your application, not something related to your activities. All right, guys. So I hope that was helpful. Again, I think these rubrics give you a starting point, a really good framework. And like every single week, just keep pushing and asking yourself, like, how can I get to a 1? How can I make this more emotional? How can I take a good creative risk? Some examples of creative risks could be related to the structure. So at Elevated, we use the montage structure. Let me pull that up. Montage or 3-scene structure, which not many students use at all. Even just using this properly is in and of itself a risk. You can pick a weird topic. I had a student write about unicycling, super weird topic. Other creative risks can be related to the form, even like using incomplete sentences and taking more stylistic risks can be considered a risk. All right. Let me pause and see if you guys have any questions so far when it comes to, what should your main essay be about? Some really great topics would be writing about family, religion, culture, faith, spirituality are all actually really good topics. Or you can write about a menial job, tends to be really good. In general, admission officers prefer hearing about stories from the past 6 to 12 months. They're not that interested in like kindergarten Kevin or middle school Kevin. Unfortunately, I will not send feedback to your guys' application personally. Usually I charge like $500 to $1,000 to do that. But every week, I will pick out 2 profiles, which I think would be the most beneficial for the audience to see, and we'll review them together. Any other questions? Yeah, I see this one from eFamily 2236. Setting the problem solution ratio aside, what's your opinion on the structure of how the problem is presented? In general, it's better to just have a really punchy, quick, like 2 to 3 sentence problem, and that's fine. That's what I would recommend. I would keep the problem as intensely brief as possible. Like one of my favorite ones, let me see if I can pull it up, is this student over here, and she wrote her hook, her problem was just, hey, what's a Ching Chong doing here? Like that's literally how the story begins. And then she offers a little bit of context and dives into her solution. She, did a more predictable sort of route where she is writing about one of her main activities, which is teaching robotics at this homeless shelter. I'm not saying that you can't do that, but that would put you more at a comfortable 2 as opposed to a 1, right? When I say 2, it's like very, very strong execution, but it was predictable. 1 would be like, whoa, like the Costco essay, the missing person essay, the letter S essay. Have you guys heard of those? If not, I'll send over a link. All right. I wrote about a convenience store. Really, really cool. Yes, that's actually a really great topic. If you wrote about working in a convenience store, if you wrote about picking your 3 favorite snacks and how they represent 3 different parts of your life, that works. This student, what do I think her essay was? I think it was between a 1 and a 2. Yeah, definitely not like, again, here's the other thing. Like this student was a girl engineer. And so they don't expect your writing ability to be as high as someone who wants to major and study the humanities or has won writing prizes. That being said, her supplemental essays were actually better than her Common App essay. Yeah, this can definitely work, Jinho. Totally. For the MIT, the rubric still works. Yeah, for an MIT transfer, MIT in particular wants to see even more weird, quirky, creative risks. I can tell you that's like their entire ethos. They love seeing weird, creative risks. All right, let's take a look at the second profile of the day. And just give me 1 second, guys. Share screen. Let's see. Okay. So it looks like the student applied to Yale regular decision. Here are some of their awards. We have finalist, Rise Global Challenge, gold medal for International Bio-Olympiad finalist. I feel like if you're a finalist, you're also, if you get a gold medal, you're probably a finalist. So it feels a little bit repetitive. Oh no, but they did it for 2 different years. Okay, fair enough. So clearly a super strong medicine focus. All right. And they want to do scientific research. That adds up. Solid test scores. They only took it once, which is pretty impressive, actually. And then, yeah, let's take a look at the activities. Another really STEM-heavy profile. Let me zoom in so it's a little bit easier to see. All right. We've been doing soccer professionally for 4 years. Huge. Yeah, that's definitely a major plus. CRISPR research. I think this profile is a little stronger than the other one we just looked at. You can see the quality of the research, and even just like, yeah, having athletics helps a lot. Launch X is related to, I think it used to be part of MIT. Pretty solid stuff. Global Leadership Fellow. I find myself wondering, yeah, is there anything related to the school? Yes, makes sense. Did the bio club. Looking really good. Huge bio focus. Nice. It might be a little bit too bio heavy, but then we also see Geology Bowl. So they lead 2 clubs, and then they've done a bunch of research outside of school. One thing that I'm also taking a look at is like, how many activities have you done for 4 years? If you've been doing more than 4, that looks amazing. It's really helpful. All right, so on the admissions rubric, I would say this is closer to a 1 than a 2. I wouldn't say still it's a true 1. I would say, like, obviously the closer you are to a 1, the better. I would say this is like a 1 point, oops, not this one. Let me close this one out. A 1.25, something like that. Looking really strong. Now the question is, this student is from Egypt, right? And are they a top 10 student in the country of Egypt? Like, that's truly the standard if you're trying to get into Harvard, Yale, MIT, Stanford. If you're just trying to get into a top 20 school, this is totally good enough to get into Georgetown, Cornell, not a problem. So it just depends on how you want to play the game, right? Your odds of getting into like a Cornell, yeah, definitely above 50%. The one thing is that the student is an international student, and just the barrier to entry for international students, unfortunately, is tougher. But I know many of you guys watching the stream are international students, and that's why I wanted to highlight this profile. I know a lot of you guys are also like STEM folks. All right, let's take a look at the essay. Oh, wow. Thank you, Reed. Hey, it's Reed. You helped put final touches on my personal statement on the SON. I just wanted to say I was accepted to UMich and attending. Oh, man, this made my whole day. Wow, this is like, oh, this is so fantastic. Let me just take a moment to absorb this. Thanks, Reed. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. I'm glad I could help, brother. By the way, guys, if you could help me out, the number one thing that improves the channel and this video is if you could just like the video and leave a kind comment, both on the stream and on like the video itself. That helps much more than you can imagine. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of the community. As I always say, like, I've been to college, gotten in, and now I'm here sacrificing my Sunday afternoon. Not quite that much of a sacrifice, but, you know, trying to do my best to help you guys. All right. Yay, I'm so glad. Thanks, Farouk. That makes me happy to hear. Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for your kind comments. Okay, going back to this student's essay, let's talk about how to improve it and yeah, whether it's working. So we'll call this student AZ. Throbbing pulse. So it is a soccer sort of story. It begins with a soccer story, but then it's ruled offside, and then we see a mirror. Diabetic brother has collapsed. Okay, so we have a kind of like a problem and then another problem. I want to see, where do we get to the solution? My performance on the pitch was taken from me, where is the solution? I received, so everything here is actually problem. That's a problem, right? Like essentially the first half page, first third of the essay is all a problem. Where do we see the solution? This is a problem. This is all still problem. I was less than a present sight. I sat alone. Okay, where do we get to the solution? No, I need to see the solution. Why was I okay, everything here is just more details related to the brother struggling. We need to get to the part where this character, this Egyptian student, is the superhero, you know, applying the diligence and leadership from soccer to helping their brother navigate diabetes. That's the part that matters. That's the part that's going to get you in. So we rebuilt the resentment. This should have been paragraph number 2 or 3. And instead of 2 sentences, it should have been more like 2 to 3 paragraphs. It's crazy to me how many stories, how many essays I get that don't pass the problem solution test. Your essay must pass that test, right? That is absolutely mission critical. If you learn anything from this channel, I've made like 1,000 videos and I can't stop hammering this note and this idea. Ideally, how can I share my, let's see. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me pull up like a Google Doc and show you how to fix this essay. In general, I don't love beginning with like a sports moment. The idea of like a sick family member can definitely work. It's a little bit on the more cliche side, but let's pretend that we wanted to make this work, right? Let's talk about, whoa, Varun, thank you so much. Admitted to REA, wouldn't have been able to do it without your rubric. Let me take a screenshot of this and show it to my mom. Guys, this makes me so happy. Oh my goodness. And thank you, Reed, as well. Let me take a screenshot. Damn. Okay, my work is working. Thanks, guys. But yeah, let's talk more about tactics here. Because I have a feeling that many of you guys have a very similar story, right? You're sick or a family member is sick, it can work. So we begin with the sports moments, and I'm not even sure we really need this. I would just begin with the diabetic brother collapsing during the sports match. Okay, at tops 3 sentences at the absolute max. Okay, and then we can add a little bit of complication and say like the main character felt, you know, maybe they felt annoyed because they lost the match, brother was sick, something along those lines. But we have to keep the problem ruthlessly short. Then the next paragraph should be about the main character helping the brother, right? Now, there's many different ways to go about this. Of course, you can do it on a more tactical level, on a more medical level, tracking all the different drugs and prescriptions and things like that. Then they run into some sort of other small problem or setback. And then the real part, like he said, is mending the relationship, right? Maybe he used to say like, okay, the second problem could be like, I used to blame my brother for whatever, you know, like I had to skip soccer practice to help him. I used to resent him. And then I used to hate myself for resenting him. Ooh, now that's kind of real. That feels kind of raw. That makes sense, right? And then he talks about, as I was healing our relationship, I was realizing that I was healing, you know, my own jealousies, my own biases. And this idea of like helping him is how you help yourself. So that's how I would make the story work. And again, this should be the overwhelming majority of the story. There's 650 words. This should be 400 words, right? Like I would put 200 here. This is another just like 2-3 sentences. Let's say 2 sentences, 200 words here, boom, reflection, and you're done. It's that simple. This is a very classic double problem solution structure, as you can see, right? We have 2 problems, problem 1, problem 2, solution 1, solution 2, reflection. If you guys are not the best writers in the world, please use and steal this recipe. It works like a charm. It's brilliant. You'll love it. We have tons of examples here in terms of the double problem solution. Where are they? I have too many tabs. I'll send it to you guys here. But yeah, I would say within our firm, we use these 3 recipes again and again and again and again, and they work crazy well. This past year, I had 10 students use like the 3-scene essay formula. 8 of them got in early. What? That's crazy, right? Like imagine if somebody said, hey, you're entering a Michelin star kitchen, but relax, chill, take a breather. I'm going to give you all the recipes. All you have to do is follow the recipe, right? This is the recipe on a broader scale when it comes to getting into your dream school. And then we also have recipes just for essays. So there you have it, right? Like I'm not trying to gatekeep or make life more difficult than it has to be. So that is the kind of rules of the game, and I really hope it helped. I am actually going to wrap up this stream a little bit early. I have a crazy busy day. I hired some new folks to specifically focus on content. Oh, for those of you guys who are interested in transferring, we are releasing a transfer guide in the next 1 or 2 weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It'll be on YouTube. And oh my gosh, huge announcement, but we're releasing this free 1 hour Ivy League Masterclass. Whether you guys are trying to get into, the Ivies in terms of undergrad or graduate school, or do a master's degree, business school, all these concepts still apply. So I will be releasing that this Wednesday or Thursday. Keep your eyes peeled. And I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this channel, being a part of this community. I wouldn't make these videos if no one was watching them. And yeah, it's just my way of hopefully leaving like a positive dent in the universe. If you could help me out just by liking this video and sharing it with like a younger student, that would honestly be the biggest help. If you could share it with, your like chicken nugget younger cousin or sibling. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you at the next one. Next week, same time, same place. Take it easy, guys. Peace.